I'm about to destroy a myth that's keeping millions of people trapped in mediocrity, and some of you won't like what I'm about to say. You've been told that everyone is special, that everyone deserves success, that everyone has unlimited potential. That's feel-good nonsense that's making you weak. The truth is this: success is not equally distributed because effort is not equally distributed. The people who win are not lucky, they're not more talented, they're not more connected. They're simply willing to do what you're not willing to do, day after day, year after year. While you're looking for shortcuts, they're taking the long road. While you're making excuses, they're making progress. Excellence is not an accident, it's a choice that most people are too comfortable to make. Let me tell you something that will change how you think about success for the rest of your life. The version of you that wins, the version of you that achieves everything you've ever dreamed about, the version of you that becomes wealthy, healthy, and happy, that version doesn't skip the hard days. See, most people have it backwards. They think success comes on the good days. They think champions are made when everything is going right, when the sun is shining, when they feel motivated, when circumstances are perfect. But that's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. Champions are made on the days when they don't want to get out of bed. Winners are forged when everything seems to be going wrong. Success is built one difficult day at a time, one tough decision at a time, one moment of choosing to do what you should do instead of what you want to do. I learned this lesson the hard way, and I want to share it with you because it might save you years of frustration and false starts. When I was 25 years old, I was broke. Not just a little short on cash, but truly broke. I had been working for 6 years since I was 19, and I had nothing to show for it. Nothing. My bank account was empty, my prospects were dim, and my confidence was shot. I remember standing in my little apartment one evening, looking around at my meager possessions, and asking myself a question that would change everything. How did I get here? Not in anger, not in self-pity, but in genuine curiosity. How does someone work for 6 years and have nothing? The answer came to me slowly, painfully, but clearly. I had been skipping the hard days. Every time things got difficult, every time I faced a real challenge, every time I had to choose between the easy path and the right path, I chose easy. Every single time. When the alarm went off early for that important meeting, I hit the snooze button. When I needed to make those difficult phone calls to prospects, I found something else to do. When I should have been reading and learning and growing, I was watching television. When I should have been saving money, I was spending it on things that didn't matter. I had become an expert at skipping the hard days. And you know what? Life gave me exactly what I deserved. Nothing. But here's what I discovered, and here's what you need to understand. The hard days are not punishment. The hard days are preparation. They are not obstacles to your success. They are the very foundation of your success. Think about it this way. When you go to the gymnasium to build your muscles, what makes them grow? Is it the easy repetitions? Is it when the weight feels light and comfortable? No. Your muscles grow when they're under stress, when they're being challenged, when you're pushing against resistance. Your character works the same way. Your discipline grows the same way. Your capacity for success expands the same way, through resistance, through difficulty, through those days when everything in you wants to quit, but you keep going anyway. The people who win in life understand this principle. They don't try to avoid the hard days. They don't wait for circumstances to be perfect. They don't postpone their efforts until they feel ready or motivated or inspired. They show up, especially on the days when they don't want to. You want to know the difference between a champion and everyone else? Everyone else is looking for the easy way. The champion knows there is no easy way, so they take the hard way and make it look easy through repetition and discipline. I've studied successful people for decades now, and this pattern shows up everywhere. In business, in sports, in relationships, in personal development. The people who win are the people who do what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, whether they feel like it or not. Take any successful business owner. You think they felt like making those first 100 sales calls? You think they felt like working late when their friends were out having fun? You think they felt like reinvesting their profits back into the business instead of spending it on luxuries? Of course not. But they did it anyway. They did it especially when they didn't feel like it. Look at any athlete who has achieved greatness. You think they felt like training when it was raining? You think they felt like practicing when they were tired? You think they felt like sticking to their diet when everyone around them was eating whatever they wanted? No, but they understood something that most people never learn. Feelings are not facts, and feelings are not instructions. Your feelings will lie to you. Your feelings will tell you to quit when you're just 3 feet from goal. Your feelings will tell you it's too hard when it's really just unfamiliar. Your feelings will tell you to wait until tomorrow when tomorrow never comes. But the version of you that wins doesn't live by feelings. That version lives by commitments. That version lives by standards. That version lives by doing what needs to be done regardless of how you feel about it. Here's something else I want you to understand. The hard days are not random. They're not accidents. They're not cosmic punishment for some mistake you made. The hard days are life's way of asking you a question. The question is simple. How badly do you want what you say you want? Most people answer that question with their comfort choices. When life asks them how badly they want success, they choose the couch over the gym. They choose television over reading. They choose sleep over early morning productivity. They choose the easy conversation over the difficult one that could change everything. But winners answer that question differently. When life asks them how badly they want it, they get up an hour earlier. They make the calls other people won't make. They have the conversations other people avoid. They do the work other people postpone. The hard days are not your enemy. The hard days are your opportunity to separate yourself from the crowd. While everyone else is making excuses, you're making progress. While everyone else is waiting for motivation, you're building discipline. While everyone else is hoping things will get easier, you're getting stronger. And here's the beautiful thing about this process. It compounds. Every hard day you don't skip makes the next hard day a little easier. Not because the circumstances change, but because you change. Your capacity grows. Your confidence builds. Your discipline becomes a habit instead of a decision you have to make every time. I want you to think about the areas of your life where you're not getting the results you want. I guarantee you, if you're honest with yourself, you'll find places where you've been skipping the hard days. Places where you've been choosing comfort over growth. Easy over effective, someday over today. The good news is this. You can change that pattern starting right now. Today can be the day you stop skipping the hard days. Today can be the day you start building the version of yourself that wins. But you have to make a decision. You have to decide that your dreams are more important than your comfort. You have to decide that your future is more important than your feelings. You have to decide that becoming who you're capable of becoming is worth more than staying who you've always been. The version of you that wins is not some distant, impossible ideal. That version is available to you right now. That version shows up when you choose to do what you should do instead of what you feel like doing. That version emerges when you stop skipping the hard days and start seeing them as the exact days that will make you everything you're meant to be. Now that you understand why hard days are the foundation of success, let me tell you about the voice. You know the one I'm talking about. We all have it. It's that voice in your head that speaks up right when things get difficult, right when you're about to do something that could change your life, right when you're on the verge of a breakthrough. This voice is smooth, it's convincing, it sounds reasonable. It says things like, you can start tomorrow. You've done enough for one day. This is too hard. You're not cut out for this. Maybe you should try something easier. Other people are just naturally better at this than you are. That voice is not your friend. That voice is not trying to protect you. That voice is trying to keep you exactly where you are. And if you listen to that voice, if you let that voice make your decisions, you will stay exactly where you are for the rest of your life. Here's what you need to understand about this internal battle. Your mind is wired for survival, not for success. Your brain was designed thousands of years ago when avoiding pain and seeking comfort meant the difference between life and death. Back then, if something was difficult or uncomfortable, it probably meant danger. So your mind learned to avoid difficulty and seek the easy path. But we're not living in caves anymore. We're not being chased by wild animals. The very things your mind wants to avoid, difficulty and discomfort and challenge, those are exactly the things that will make your life better in the modern world. The mind hasn't caught up to this reality. Your mind is still operating on old programming. So when you want to exercise, your mind says, save your energy, you might need it later. When you want to learn something new, your mind says, this is unfamiliar, it might be dangerous. When you want to take a risk that could improve your life, your mind says, stay safe, stay where you are. This is why most people live lives of quiet desperation. They're not bad people, they're not lazy people. They're people who are letting an outdated survival system make their decisions for them. But here's the key, you don't have to listen to that voice. You can acknowledge it, thank it for trying to keep you safe, and then do what you know is right anyway. You can recognize that voice as an old friend who means well but gives terrible advice. I learned to have conversations with that voice. When it tells me to skip my morning reading, I say, thank you for the suggestion, but I'm going to read anyway. When it tells me not to make that difficult phone call, I say, I hear you, but I'm making the call. When it tells me to postpone starting that important project, I say, I understand your concern, but I'm starting today. You see, the voice never goes away completely. Even after decades of success, even after proving to myself over and over that doing the difficult thing leads to good results, that voice still shows up. But it gets quieter, and more importantly, I get better at not listening to it. The difference between people who succeed and people who don't is not that successful people don't hear that voice. The difference is that successful people have learned to act in spite of that voice. They've learned to do what they know is right, even when every fiber of their being is telling them to do something else. This is what I call productive struggle versus meaningless suffering. The big difference between these two things, and understanding this difference will save you years of wasted effort. Meaningless suffering is when you're struggling because you're fighting reality. When you're complaining about how hard things are. When you're spending your energy wishing things were different instead of adapting to how things actually are. When you're struggling against circumstances that you can't control. Productive struggle is different. Productive struggle is when you're working against your own limitations to become something more. When you're pushing against your comfort zone to expand your capabilities. When you're doing difficult things because you know they will make you stronger, smarter, or more skilled. The person who complains about having to wake up early is suffering meaninglessly. The person who wakes up early, even though it's difficult, is struggling productively. Same action, completely different mental approach, completely different results. Here's how you can tell the difference. Productive struggle feels difficult, but hopeful. You know you're growing. You can sense that you're building something. You might be tired, you might be challenged, but underneath it all, you feel like you're moving forward. Meaningless suffering feels difficult and hopeless. You feel like you're spinning your wheels. You feel like a victim of circumstances. You feel like nothing you do makes any difference. The key is to consciously choose productive struggle over meaningless suffering every single day. Instead of complaining about how hard your goals are, celebrate the fact that you're willing to pursue difficult goals. Instead of wishing your challenges were easier, be grateful that you have challenges that can make you stronger. I want to tell you about the compound effect of pushing through when you don't feel like it. This is one of the most powerful forces in human achievement, and most people completely miss it. Every time you do what you should do when you don't feel like doing it, you make a deposit in what I call your discipline account. You prove to yourself that you can be trusted. You demonstrate that your commitments are stronger than your feelings. You build evidence that you are the kind of person who follows through. These deposits compound over time. After you've made enough deposits, something magical happens. You start to believe in yourself at a deeper level. Not just hope that you can achieve your goals, but actually believe it. You develop what I call earned confidence. Earned confidence is different from positive thinking or wishful thinking. Earned confidence comes from having proof that you can do difficult things. It comes from having a track record of keeping commitments to yourself. It comes from knowing, not just hoping, that when you decide to do something, it gets done. This kind of confidence changes everything. It changes how you walk into rooms. It changes how you handle setbacks. It changes what goals you're willing to set for yourself. It changes how other people see you and respond to you. But here's the thing about building this discipline account. You can't make a big deposit all at once. You can't decide to be disciplined for one day and expect it to change your life. Discipline is built through small, consistent deposits over long periods of time. Every time you get up when the alarm goes off, instead of hitting snooze, you make a small deposit. Every time you choose the healthy meal over the convenient meal, you make a small deposit. Every time you do your evening reading instead of watching television, you make a small deposit. None of these individual actions seems like a big deal, but over time, they add up to something powerful. They add up to a version of yourself that you can trust, a version of yourself that does what needs to be done regardless of circumstances. The opposite is also true. Every time you break a commitment to yourself, you make a withdrawal from your discipline account. Every time you choose the easy option when you know the right option, you erode your self-trust. Every time you postpone what you should do today until tomorrow, you weaken your belief in your own capability. Most people are making withdrawals faster than they're making deposits. They wonder why they don't believe in themselves. They wonder why they feel stuck. They wonder why they can't seem to follow through on their goals. The answer is simple. They have a negative balance in their discipline account. They owe themselves more than they've proven they can deliver. They've trained themselves to be unreliable to the most important person in their life, themselves. But the beautiful thing about this system is that you can change your balance starting today. You can begin making deposits immediately. You can start rebuilding your self-trust with the very next decision you make. The key is to start small. Don't try to transform your entire life overnight. Pick one area where you've been inconsistent and commit to being reliable in that area for the next 30 days. Just one area. Just 30 days. Maybe it's getting up at the same time every morning. Maybe it's reading for 15 minutes before bed. Maybe it's taking a walk after dinner. Whatever it is, make it small enough that you know you can succeed, but significant enough that succeeding will matter to you. Then, no matter what, keep that commitment for 30 days. No exceptions, no excuses. No matter how you feel, no matter what else is happening in your life, honor that commitment. At the end of those 30 days, you'll have made 30 deposits in your discipline account. You'll have 30 pieces of evidence that you are someone who follows through. You'll have proven to yourself that you can be trusted with bigger commitments. This is how you build the mental toughness that separates winners from everyone else. Not through dramatic gestures or heroic efforts, but through quiet consistency. Through doing what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, whether you feel like it or not. The version of you that wins understands this internal battle. That version knows about the voice that tries to keep you comfortable. That version has learned to distinguish between productive struggle and meaningless suffering. That version has built a discipline account with a positive balance. Most importantly, that version has learned the secret that I'm about to share with you. Motivation gets you started, but habit gets you finished. And habits are built one difficult decision at a time, one hard day at a time, one moment of choosing growth over comfort at a time. Now that you understand the psychology behind why we avoid hard days, Let me give you the practical tools to win that internal battle. Because understanding is only the first step. Application is where the magic happens. You can know everything about success and still fail if you don't have a system for turning knowledge into action. The first thing you need to understand is this: how you start your day determines how you finish your day, and how you finish your day determines how you start your life. Your morning routine is not just about the first few hours after you wake up. Your morning routine is about setting the tone for who you're going to be for the next 16 hours. Most people stumble through their mornings. They hit the snooze button 3 times, they check their phone before their feet hit the floor, they rush through breakfast, complain about traffic, and arrive at work already stressed and reactive. Then they wonder why their days feel chaotic and unproductive. But winners understand that the morning is when you win or lose the day. The morning is when you establish whether you're going to be the person who happens to life or the person life happens to. The morning is when you decide whether you're going to be proactive or reactive for the next 16 hours. I want to share with you the morning routine that changed my life. It's simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. And simple doesn't mean unimportant. Sometimes the simplest things are the most powerful. First, I get up at the same time every day. Not when I feel like it, not when it's convenient, at the same time every day. This one habit sends a message to my subconscious mind that I am someone who can be trusted to do what I say I'm going to do, even when I don't feel like it. Most people think willpower is about making big, heroic decisions. But willpower is really about making small, consistent choices. And the first choice of the day, the choice to get up when you said you would, sets the pattern for every other choice that follows. Second, before I do anything else, before I check messages or emails or news, I spend time on my personal development. I read something that will make me think differently or feel differently about my life and my possibilities. Not later in the day when I'm tired, not when I find time. First thing, when my mind is fresh and receptive. This habit alone will put you in the top 5% of achievers. Most people fill their minds with problems first thing in the morning. They read the news, which is mostly bad. They check their messages, which are mostly other people's priorities. They start their day consuming instead of creating, reacting instead of planning. But when you start your day by feeding your mind something nutritious, something that helps you grow, you're programming yourself for success. You're reminding yourself of what's possible. You're connecting with the version of yourself that you're working to become. Third, I plan my day before my day plans me. I take 15 minutes to think about what really matters today. Not just what's urgent, but what's important. Not just what other people want from me, but what I want to accomplish that will move my life forward. This planning time is sacred. This is when I decide what kind of day I'm going to have. This is when I prepare mentally for the challenges I might face. This is when I remind myself of my priorities so that when distractions come, and they will come, I can stay focused on what really matters. Here's something most people don't understand about discipline. Discipline is not about being perfect. Discipline is about being consistent. You don't have to be perfect to be successful. You just have to be consistent enough that your good days outnumber your bad days by a significant margin. I follow what I call the 80% rule. If I do what I'm supposed to do 80% of the time, I'm going to get remarkable results. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to be reliable. This takes the pressure off. This makes discipline sustainable. Because when you're trying to be perfect, you're setting yourself up for failure. When you fail, you feel guilty. When you feel guilty, you're more likely to give up entirely. But when you're aiming for 80% consistency, you have room for being human. You have room for bad days. You have room for mistakes. And when you do have a bad day, instead of using it as an excuse to quit, you just get back on track the next day. Let me tell you about the power of keeping commitments to yourself. This might be the most important skill you can develop, and it's also one of the most neglected. Think about this. You probably keep most of your commitments to other people. If If you tell someone you'll meet them at noon, you show up at noon. If you promise to deliver something by Friday, you deliver it by Friday. You do this because you value your reputation. You do this because you don't want to let other people down. But what about the commitments you make to yourself? What about when you tell yourself you're going to exercise 3 times this week? What about when you promise yourself you're going to save money this month? What about when you commit to reading for 30 minutes every evening? Most people break commitments to themselves without a second thought. They treat these promises as suggestions rather than obligations. They would never treat a friend the way they treat themselves. But here's what happens when you consistently break promises to yourself. You lose trust in yourself. You stop believing that you can do what you say you're going to do. You develop what I call learned helplessness. You start to believe that you're just not the kind of person who follows through. The solution is to start treating yourself with the same respect you show other people. When you make a commitment to yourself, honor it the same way you would honor a commitment to your best friend or your biggest client. Start small. Make commitments you know you can keep. Build a track record of reliability with yourself. Prove to yourself that you are someone who can be trusted. Here's a practical way to do this. Every Sunday, make 3 commitments to yourself for the upcoming week. Write them down, make them specific, make them measurable, make them realistic. Maybe it's, I will exercise for 30 minutes on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I will read for 15 minutes every evening. I will save $50 this week by bringing lunch to work. Then, no matter what happens during the week, keep those commitments. Treat them as seriously as you would treat a commitment to anyone else in your life. At the end of the week, evaluate how you did. If you kept all 3 commitments, celebrate that success and make 3 new commitments for the following week. If you broke any commitments, don't make excuses, just recommit and try again. This simple practice will transform your relationship with yourself. You'll start to believe that you are someone who follows through. You'll develop confidence in your ability to do difficult things. You'll build the foundation for bigger and more ambitious goals. Now let me talk to you about breaking down overwhelming challenges into manageable pieces. This is one of the most important skills for staying consistent on hard days. Big goals can be paralyzing. When you look at everything you need to do to achieve something significant, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. It's easy to think, this is too much. I don't know where to start. Maybe I should just forget about it. But here's the truth. No one achieves big goals by focusing on how big they are. You achieve big goals by breaking them down into small daily actions and then focusing only on today's actions. You want to write a book? You don't sit down and write a book. You sit down and write a page. If you want to lose 50 pounds, you don't lose 50 pounds. You make one healthy choice at a time. If you want to build a business, you don't build a business. You make one phone call, send one email, have one conversation. The key is to make your daily actions so small that you can't fail, and so meaningful that they matter. Small enough that you can't make excuses. Meaningful enough that they add up to something significant over time. I learned this lesson when I was trying to read more books. I set a goal to read 50 books in a year. That seemed overwhelming. 50 books? That's almost 1 book a week. How was I going to find time for that? But then I broke it down. 50 books a year is about 4 books a month. 4 books a month is 1 book a week. 1 book a week is about 20 pages a day. 20 pages a day is about 30 minutes of reading. Suddenly, my overwhelming goal became a simple daily habit. Read for 30 minutes every day. I could handle 30 minutes. Anyone can handle 30 minutes. And you know what happened? I didn't just read 50 books that year, I read 62 books. Because once I got into the habit of reading every day, it became automatic. It became part of who I was. This is the power of breaking big challenges into small daily actions. You stop focusing on the enormity of your goal and start focusing on the simplicity of your next action. Let me tell you about creating accountability systems at work. Accountability is not about punishment. Accountability is about support. It's about creating structures that make it easier to do the right thing and harder to do the wrong thing. The first level of accountability is self-accountability. This is where you track your own progress and hold yourself responsible for your results. I recommend keeping a simple daily scorecard where you track whether you did the things you committed to do. At the end of each day, ask yourself, did I do what I said I was going to do today? If the answer is yes, give yourself credit. If the answer is no, don't make excuses. Just recommit to doing better tomorrow. The second level of accountability is social accountability. This is where you involve other people in your goals. You tell someone what you're working on and ask them to check in with you regularly about your progress. Choose someone who cares about your success but won't let you off the hook easily. Someone who will ask tough questions. Someone who will celebrate your wins and challenge your excuses. The third level of accountability is systemic accountability. This is where you create systems and environments that automatically support your goals. You set up your environment so that doing the right thing is easier than doing the wrong thing. If you want to eat healthier, you stock your kitchen with healthy food and remove the junk food. If you want to exercise more, you lay out your workout clothes the night before and schedule your workouts like appointments. If you want to read more, you put books in every room and hide your television remote. Remember, the goal is not to rely on willpower. The goal is to create systems that make success inevitable even when your willpower is weak. Here's the most important thing I want you to understand about building habits that carry you when motivation fails. Motivation is like the weather. Some days it's sunny and beautiful. Some days it's cloudy and stormy. Some days you can't see the sun at all. But habits are like the ground beneath your feet. They're always there. They don't depend on how you feel. They don't change based on circumstances. They carry you forward even when you don't feel like moving. The version of you that wins has learned to build habits so strong that they function automatically. That version doesn't depend on feeling motivated to exercise. Exercise is just what that version does. That version doesn't need to feel inspired to work on important projects. Working on important projects is just part of that version's identity. Building these kinds of habits takes time. It takes patience. It takes consistency. But once you have them, they become the foundation of everything else you want to achieve. They become the rails on which your success runs day after day, year after year, regardless of how you feel about it. Now I want to talk to you about something that will completely change how you experience difficult days. It's about learning to see setbacks not as evidence that you're failing, but as proof that you're growing. It's about understanding that every obstacle contains within it the seeds of equivalent opportunity. Most people have a fixed relationship with failure. They think failure means they're not cut out for success. They think setbacks are signs that they should quit. They think obstacles are the universe telling them to try something easier. But winners think differently about these things. Winners understand that failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. Failure is feedback. Failure is education. Failure is the price you pay for the privilege of eventually succeeding. Let me tell you what I learned about this the hard way. When I was first starting to build my business, I failed more than I succeeded. I made calls that didn't result in sales. I tried strategies that didn't work. I invested time and energy in approaches that led nowhere. I could have looked at all this failure and concluded that I wasn't meant for business success. I could have decided that other people were just naturally better at this than I was. I could have given up and found something easier to do. But instead, I started asking different questions. Instead of asking, why is this so hard for me? I started asking, what is this trying to teach me? Instead of asking, why do I keep failing, I started asking, how can I fail faster so I can learn faster? This shift in thinking changed everything. Every rejection became information about how to improve my approach. Every mistake became a lesson about what not to do next time. Every setback became data that I could use to make better decisions going forward. Here's what you need to understand. There is no such thing as failure, only results. Some results are closer to what you want, and some results are further from what you want. But they're all just results. And results are always valuable if you're willing to learn from them. The person who makes 100 sales calls and gets 90 rejections didn't fail 90 times. That person got 90 pieces of feedback about how to improve their approach. That person eliminated 90 approaches that don't work. That person is now 90 steps closer to finding the approach that does work. But most people don't see it this way. Most people make 10 calls, get 10 rejections, and conclude that they're not good at sales. They quit before they get to the lesson. They give up before they get to the breakthrough. Winners understand something that losers never learn. Every expert was once a beginner. Every professional was once an amateur. Everyone who makes it look easy once found it incredibly difficult. The difference is not that successful people are naturally gifted. The difference is that successful people are willing to be bad at something long enough to get good at it. They're willing to look foolish while they're learning. They're willing to fail in public while they're figuring it out. This is what I call the difference between temporary defeat and permanent failure. Temporary defeat is when you try something, it doesn't work, and you learn from it and try again. Permanent failure is when you try something, it doesn't work, and you decide that means you should never try again. Most people turn temporary defeats into permanent failures through their interpretation. They make one setback mean something about their character or their capabilities. They take one bad result and turn it into a story about why they can't succeed. But winners understand that temporary defeat is just that, temporary. They know that today's failure can become tomorrow's success if they're willing to learn from it and keep going. Let me share with you a story that illustrates this perfectly. I once knew a man who started 12 different businesses over the course of 15 years. 11 of those businesses failed. Most people would look at that record and think, this guy is a failure. He should quit trying to be an entrepreneur. But that 12th business made him a millionaire. And when I asked him about those 11 failures, he said something I'll never forget. I didn't fail 11 times. I eliminated 11 ways that don't work. Each failure taught me something I needed to know to make the 12th business succeed. That's the mindset that separates winners from everyone else. Winners see setbacks as setups for comebacks. They understand that every problem contains within it the opportunity for growth. When you face a difficult situation, you have two choices. You can see it as something happening to you, or you can see it as something happening for you. You can see it as punishment, or you can see it as preparation. The person who sees difficulties as punishment becomes bitter. They complain about how unfair life is. They waste their energy fighting against circumstances they can't control. They become victims of their situation. The person who sees difficulties as preparation becomes stronger. They ask what this situation is trying to teach them. They look for ways to grow from the challenge. They find opportunities to develop skills they didn't know they needed. Here's something else that winners understand. Your biggest challenges often become your greatest strengths. The very thing that's making your life difficult right now might be the exact thing that prepares you for your greatest success. Think about it this way. If everything in your life was easy, if you never faced any obstacles, if every goal you set was automatically achieved, what kind of person would you become? You would be weak. You would be unprepared for real challenges. You would have no capacity for helping others who are struggling. But when you face difficulties and learn to overcome them, you develop strength. You develop resilience. You develop wisdom. You develop the ability to help others who are facing similar challenges. Your struggles are not just about you. Your struggles are preparing you to serve others. Your difficulties are developing you into the kind of person who can make a difference in the world. I want you to start thinking about your challenges differently. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me, start asking, how is this preparing me? Instead of asking, when will this get easier, start asking, how can I get stronger? This shift in perspective will transform your entire experience of difficult days. Instead of dreading challenges, you'll start to welcome them as opportunities to grow. Instead of avoiding difficult situations, you'll start to see them as chances to develop skills you didn't know you needed. The version of you that wins has learned this secret. Obstacles are not roadblocks. Obstacles are building blocks. Every challenge you overcome makes you stronger for the next challenge. Every problem you solve prepares you for bigger problems. Every difficulty you face develops you into the person you need to become to achieve your dreams. Remember this, the size of your success is determined by the size of the problems you're willing to solve. If you want small success, solve small problems. If you want big success, learn to solve big problems. And the only way to learn to solve big problems is to start solving smaller problems and work your way up. Your difficulties are not your destiny. Your difficulties are your development. The question is not whether you'll face challenges. The question is whether you'll let those challenges make you bitter or better. The choice is always yours. We've talked about understanding why hard days matter. We've talked about the psychology of persistence. We've talked about practical strategies and growth mindset. Now I want to talk to you about the ultimate goal. Becoming the version of yourself that shows up regardless of circumstances. This is about more than just achieving your goals. This is about becoming the kind of person who achieves goals. This is about developing an identity so strong that success becomes inevitable because of who you are, not just what you do. Let me ask you a question. Who are you when nobody's watching? Who are you when there's no audience to impress, no boss to please, no social media to update? Who are you in those quiet moments when it's just you and your choices? That's the real you. That's the version that determines your destiny. And that's the version you need to develop if you want to create lasting success. Most people live their lives wearing masks. They have a work personality, a social personality, a family personality. They act one way when people are watching and another way when they're alone. They make promises in public and break them in private. But winners understand that integrity means wholeness. It means being the same person in all situations. It means having your private actions match your public promises. It means being someone you can count on even when no one else is counting on you. This is what I call living your winning identity. It's about becoming the kind of person who does what needs to be done whether they feel like it or not, whether people are watching or not, whether they get credit or not. Think about the most successful people you know or have studied. What sets them apart is not just their achievements. What sets them apart is their consistency. They show up the same way day after day. They have standards that don't change based on circumstances. They have principles that guide their actions regardless of how they feel. They've made a fundamental shift from trying to achieve success to becoming successful, from trying to act disciplined to being disciplined, from trying to be reliable to becoming reliable. This shift happens when you stop seeing discipline as something you do and start seeing it as something you are. When you stop seeing consistency as a strategy and start seeing it as your identity. I remember the exact moment this shift happened for me. I was going through a particularly difficult period in my business. Everything seemed to be going wrong. Sales were down, problems were piling up, and I was questioning whether I was cut out for success. I could have used that difficult time as an excuse to lower my standards. I could have justified skipping my reading, neglecting my planning, or abandoning my routines. I could have told myself that I would get back on track when things got easier. But instead, I made a decision that changed my life. I decided that especially during the hard times, I would stick to my standards. I decided that my difficult circumstances were not going to change who I was. I decided that I was going to be the same person in the storm that I was in the sunshine. That decision transformed everything, not immediately, but gradually. As I maintained my standards despite my circumstances, I started to see myself differently. I started to believe in myself at a deeper level. I started to develop what I call unshakable confidence. Unshakable confidence is different from positive thinking or self-esteem. Unshakable confidence comes from having proof that you can be trusted to do the right thing regardless of circumstances. It comes from knowing that no matter what life throws at you, you will handle it with grace and determination. This kind of confidence creates what I call unstoppable momentum. When you become the kind of person who shows up regardless of circumstances, circumstances start to change. When you become the kind of person who does what needs to be done whether you feel like it or not, you start getting different results. But here's the most important part. This transformation doesn't just affect your professional life. It affects every area of your life. When you develop discipline in one area, it spreads to other areas. When you become reliable in your business habits, you become more reliable in your relationships. When you become consistent in your personal development, you become more consistent in your health habits. This is what I call the ripple effect of personal discipline. One positive change creates another positive change, which creates another positive change. Success starts to compound, not just in your bank account, but in your character. Let me ask you something. What do you want to be remembered for? When people think about you after you're gone, what do you want them to say? Do you want them to remember someone who gave up when things got hard? Or do you want them to remember someone who persevered through difficulties and inspired others to do the same? Your legacy is not just about what you achieve. Your legacy is about who you become in the process of achieving it. Your legacy is about the example you set for others who are facing their own hard days. Every time you choose to show up on a difficult day, you're not just changing your own life, you're giving permission to others to do the same. Every time you push through when you don't feel like it, you're proving that it's possible. Every time you honor your commitments to yourself, you're demonstrating what integrity looks like. So here's my challenge to you. Stop waiting for the perfect day to start living like the winner you're capable of becoming. Stop waiting for motivation to strike. Stop waiting for circumstances to improve. Start today. Start with the next decision you make. The version of you that wins is not some distant, impossible ideal. That version is available to you right now. That version shows up when you decide that your standards are more important than your feelings. That version emerges when you choose to do what you should do. The hard days are coming, whether you're ready for them or not. The question is, will you skip them and stay who you've always been, or will you show up and become who you're meant to be? The choice is yours. The time is now. The version of you that wins is waiting.